Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to Mental Health Matters, where we openly talk about mental health issues. My name is Harpal Singh, and today we've got a very, very interesting subject. We're going to be talking about suicide, how it affects people, what makes people do it, and the effects it has on friends and family and loved ones from there. I see मेरा नाम हरपाल सिंह है. Welcome to Mental Health. आज ਅਸੀਂ ਆਤਮਹੱਤਿਆ ਜਾਂ ਖੁਦਕੁਸ਼ੀ ਉੱਤੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ. ਸਾਨੂੰ ਅੱਜ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੇਖਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਖੁਦਕੁਸ਼ੀ ਬੰਦੇ ਕਰਦੇ ਕਿਉਂ ਹੈਗੇ, ਉਹ ਕਾਰਨ ਕੀ ਹੈਗਾ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਫੈਕਟ ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ. ਅੱਜ ਜੋ ਸਾਡਾ ਜੋ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਕਾਫੀ ਡੂੰਘਾ ਹੈਗਾ. ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਨੰਬਰਸ ਹੋਏਗੇ, ਜੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੈਲਪਲਾਈਨ ਦੇ ਨੰਬਰ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਬਾਅਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾਲ. Today's topic is going to be quite deep, and if there is someone who feels during the course of the show that it's getting a bit too much, there will be numbers that we will put on the screen for various helplines that you can get into. I'd like to open the show by talking to a wonderful guest. She's a psychological graduate, joint papyrus to prevent suicide for young people in 2016. She's the Regional Development Officer working across 33 London boroughs. I want to welcome Aarti.
Thank you.
Aarti, welcome to Mental Health Matters. A bit more information about you.
So I'm not originally from London, actually originally from the West Midlands, but joined Papyrus in 2016. And yes, my role is a Regional Development Officer, and I work for the national charity Papyrus Prevention of Young Suicide. And we offer services to anyone 35 and under who's experiencing any sorts of suicide through a national helpline called Helpline UK. We do a lot of training and awareness raising for people in the community, because suicide can be really difficult for people to talk about, and we influence national agenda.
So suicide can be quite a difficult place to talk about.
Yeah, it can.
So I'm moving on to someone extremely special as well. Someone who's a qualified counsellor in humanistic approaches, 2010, with a leading Matri organisation for 12 years, and currently the senior operations coordinator for them. All work up to Angela as well.
So I started work, I started as a volunteer in 2006. The reason for that was I had my own mental health issues. I struggled, had gone through the NHS and had made several attempts, and only after kind of a couple of years of therapy I wanted to give something back. It was so important for me that people feel heard and acknowledged. So I joined Matri, and it had been open a few years then. So what we offer is a very, very simple befriending space for people to talk openly. We use the word suicide, we don't shy away from it. It's important that people feel heard and acknowledged. So they come and stay for 5 days, 4 nights.
Okay. And good, lastly, someone who's been raising awareness, engaging community, especially in Gurdwara, working with a number of charities, Papyrus as well, and also working with the wonderful Hero Group as well, and lobbying for mental health to be a compulsory subject in the NHS.
Yeah, so
welcome.
Thank you. I began raising awareness, fundraising on the prevention of suicide in June 2017 for Papyrus and Matri. We also, early this year, we began raising awareness in Gurdwara. I'm also looking to promote charities such as Sure Mind Foundation and Bobby Temps, who are currently working to make mental health compulsory on the national curriculum.
Could you start with how's the Gurdwara experience talking about suicide?
It's interesting. I lost my husband to suicide in September 2015, and it was only last year, like I said, last year that we began fundraising and raising awareness on the prevention of suicide. The reason how we came to present in Gurdwara was because after I attended a SOBS meeting, which was a survivors of bereavement by suicide, one of the people there shared their story with us, and they had lost their brother to suicide at the age of 21. And after, they had a service in the church, and the priest came up to the young person and said, the way in which your brother ended his life would be considered a sin. So this got me thinking, well, actually, if it's considered a sin, and it's not a view or a judgment that all religious establishments take, it may be the view of the individual. What are religious establishments doing to prevent this from happening? So that's how I got into the Gurdwara. I contacted the Guru Nanak Gurdwara on Smethwick High Street. I contacted the Gurdwara and Guru Nanak Gurdwara on Smethwick High Street, and we spoke to the General Secretary there, Hamraj. He was completely supportive, and that's where we took off from. So I invited Papyrus and my brother to present on suicide, and my brother presented on suicide and alcoholism. We also invited Mind, Hira Foundation and the Samaritans to support the congregation after the presentation if they had any questions on suicide and mental health. Our aim was purely to try and change people's mindsets, their perception about suicide and mental health. I know we can't do that overnight, but it provided a platform for people to start talking about those topics.
देखिए जाए आत्महत्या खुदकुशी जो काफ़ी डूंगी चीज़ है ते कई तरह के बंदे को कुछ मदद नहीं मिलती साढ़े को अज दिन बंदे आए गए अज जो साढ़े नाल गल करेंगे दसन से की होंदा है की इफेक्ट्स होंदे है की है ते खास कर किदा से कुछ कर सकते हैं जो बंदे को कोई अदर जो चाह है कि आत्महत्या करने से या खुदकुशी करने से Angela, just coming on to what you do and how things are. You mentioned you've got 5-day stays. Do you mind explaining a bit more about what Maytree does?
Basically, what we do is offer anyone over 18 a one-off stay of 4 nights and 5 days. Before anyone comes to stay, and they have a series of what we call befriending calls. So within the calls, we're getting to find out what's driving the thoughts, and as the calls progress, we get a history, like a life history.
Okay.
So after they first make contact with us, they'll speak to one of our volunteers. We will then listen to what's going on at that point, ask them what other support they've got. We will then ask them to go away. We'll fully explain how the house runs. It's not therapy, there's no timetable. And we are run a lot by volunteers. It's those that give their time. We ask them to call back in a couple of days to really think about what we offer, because it is one-off. Once somebody's been and stayed, there is no coming back again.
Why is that?
It stops what I would call the revolving door system. We want people to kind of, out of their stay, find the power in themselves to be able to move forward.
So people who come to the Maytree and spend 4 days and spend some time there, what do they get out of it?
A chance to talk honestly and openly.
Okay. That's very important, isn't it, to actually be able to talk to someone who's there to listen?
Absolutely, absolutely. No, we can all think we listen, but it's really tuning in. And to actually what's not being said. You know, we use the word suicide, we don't shy away from it.
It's interesting how Angela just mentioned here that there's organisations out there to listen, there to help, and to provide accommodation for a period of time to help those who are in need. But there again, it comes back down to being there for them as well. सारी संस्था बनी हुई है जो डूंगी विचार जो होते खुदकुशी होते बनी हुई जो बंदा जाके उधर को मदद ले सकता है ऐसे उन्हें आरती को पूछेंगे कि की हो रहा है and Arti, in your thoughts, Papyrus, why is it dedicated just to under 35s?
It's a good question. Under the age of 35, many people are not aware of this, but suicide is actually the leading cause of death in men and women.
Hold that thought a minute. Let me just gather that. Under the age of 35 is the leading cause of death is suicide. 35 साल दे अंदर दे बंदे नो suicide सब तो वड्डी जो हैगी है suicide सब तो मौत दा कारण बनने हैगी Why? 25, you just started life.
It's hard really to think of the reasons. There's so many reasons why people may be feeling like that, and if I started to list the reasons, somebody watching the show who is feeling like that may not feel like they're included in that. What we aim for is prevention. And what we want to do is provide a service. So if you are somebody who is experiencing those sorts of suicide, talk about it. Talk openly about it. Angela very eloquently said that we don't shy away from the subject of suicide and we talk about it, and that's absolutely what Papyrus do as well. We believe very similarly that we have to talk about it, have to listen to the person and provide the appropriate help and support.
And Angela, what's your thoughts on what our teacher said?
I totally agree. I mean, we live in a society where there is such a stigma attached to the word suicide and to mental health.
Yeah.
We should be talking about it openly. People shouldn't have to feel ashamed of mental health or feeling suicidal. I can't stress enough that none of us are immune from ever being suicidal. It can happen to any one of us, and it's so important that you talk about it, that you don't. It's such a lonely place. I can tell you from my own experience that you are in such a box of darkness.
I'm going to open it to the panel here. We've got loads of people talking about the BB community, and especially Asian community. What stops Asian people talking about mental health and suicide?
Pride, shame, stigma.
Really?
Not being able to vocalise or verbalise how they're feeling. I think some people from a young age don't talk about their feelings and emotions. I think they've never been taught about how to speak openly about their feelings and emotions. So being able to verbalise them or vocalise them can be difficult because they might not understand why they're feeling the way they are. Fear of being judged is another one. There's lots of reasons that could prevent that person from getting help.
Do you know, you've done quite a lot of work in the Gurdwara in preventing and talking. Is there any particular people that came to you and talked about experiences that they've had?
There was quite a few actually. It stems from all ages. You had concerned parents about their children. You had people who had thoughts of suicide themselves, people who had thoughts of suicide, acted on that thought and came out through the other end. I think what people are grateful for is that we're actually using the word suicide, we're using the word mental health, and not so much normalising suicide, but it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to talk about it. The more we talk about it, the more we're kind of allowing people to say it's okay to talk. So, yeah. I
saw a few nods of heads here.
Yeah, and I just think it's so important that we do talk about it. All the reasons that Gurj just shared and more. I think there's such a lack of education in mental health in our Asian community, and many people, if they are struggling or if they have an issue, the place they might go is the Gurdwara, or they might go to the temple, and that's okay because a lot of us will rely on our faith to help us out. But sometimes they're not trained or they're equipped to kind of know what to do in that situation. So something that's a mental health issue that needs to have medical attention might not actually be given that. And communities also talk to each other. So communities might go to each other and they might share unhelpful strategies that actually don't help the problem that person is feeling. And these can lead to things escalating. So, suicide doesn't start from absolutely nothing. Suicide is an escalation of a lot of different things in a person's life. So, many people watching this today might relate to some of that or might realise that they might have had that themselves, and we really do need to be talking about it. It's so important. The work that Gurj has been doing so far has just been fantastic, and I know that we did a presentation here very recently in the south of Gurdwara, and a gentleman in the congregation very bravely stood up at the end and shared an experience of losing someone in his family, a young man, to suicide. Now, I don't know if people in the congregation knew that already, but, it's so powerful when we talk openly about it, because when we do, so many people will say, you know what, I know somebody. Yeah, me too. And that's just such a powerful shared experience.
It's interesting when we talk about suicide or mental health, the stigma is coming across. It's something we've been noticing, or I've been noticing for some time now, especially with different areas of mental health, especially with suicide. I see, डरते क्यों है गल करने बच्चा? किसी कुछ होना है कुछ कुछ करना है ऐसे कई तरह के बंदे हैं जो ऐसे गल कर सकते हैं वैसे सानू एतराज़ क्यों होता है गल करने का अभी साढ़े को होता है coming back to you mentioned earlier on that unfortunately your husband committed suicide. Do you mind sharing us how it was for you going through that as a family member?
It's difficult. The aftermath of his death left us pretty much heartbroken, in a lot of pain. It left behind a trail of chaos and destruction. A lot of unanswered questions, the whys, the what ifs, if onlys, and they'll remain that way. We'll never get the answers to any of that. It was a devastating blow to all of us, friends, family, everyone, and people who didn't even know Jazz felt some kind of compassion towards it all. He was just taken way too soon.
It's interesting how we talked about suicide, and especially with family members, there's the elements of the unknown, not knowing what's going on, and potentially even saying goodbye to them. सानू कभी कभी पता नहीं चलता है जो बंदा आत्महत्या कर ले या खुदकुशी कर लेता है कि क्यों किया कारण की सेगा उन्होंने क्यों हुआ से की कैसे सेगा and it's quite a difficult thing काफी औखा है just to let you guys know our telephone lines are now open. If you need to ring in or speak to one of our panel experts there, the number's on the bottom of your screen and you can ring in. संगत ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਜੋ ਟੈਲੀਫੋਨ ਲਾਈਨ ਖੁੱਲ ਚੁੱਕੀ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਪੈਨਲ ਨਾਲ ਕਿਸੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈ ਸੁਸਾਈਡ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਾਂ ਆਤਮਹੱਤਿਆ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਟੈਲੀਫੋਨ ਨੰਬਰ ਨੀਚੇ ਹੈ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਫੋਨ ਕਰਕੇ ਪੁੱਛ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਸਾਡੇ ਪੈਨਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਆਰਤੀ why should someone ring Papyrus's helpline?
Well, if you're under the age of 35 and you're experiencing any sorts of suicide, then we actively encourage you to reach out for help and support and talk about it. What we know is that some people don't feel that they can talk to people in their community, or maybe they don't know where to go, maybe because it's the first time they've ever spoken openly about suicide, and that's such a brave and courageous thing to share with somebody, and they might be scared of people's reactions. So, you know, a lot of people will call Helpline UK because they need to talk it through with somebody first to probably make sense of it. And you know, for some people they might not really understand it themselves, and they might be a little bit confused, and they might want to talk it through with somebody who they feel will listen. And you know, listening is a skill, you know, like Andrew said, is a skill we think we use daily, but actually we miss things. And we do, and we can be forgiven for missing things, but this is a specialist service where people can get that help and support. But you know, there's another element to the line as well, and you know, you as viewers watching today, if you are somebody who is worried about somebody, you know, in your professional capacity, or whether you've got a family member or a friend and you think they're thinking of suicide, you can give us a call as well, because we know how hard that is. It's such a hard discussion to have and to know where to start, and many people don't have that discussion because they're scared of what to say, and we think actually staying silent can be really risky. So speak to somebody, speak to Helpline, and we can help you with that conversation.
Angela, coming on to you here, I know you're probably based in London.
Yeah.
If anyone's up north or not in London and can't visit you guys, what would you suggest or recommend for them?
Call us. We take people from all over the UK.
Okay. So you don't have to be London based?
No, not at all. Not at all. Just going back to something that Artie said about that conversation. Mm-hmm. When I spend time, we don't call them patients, they're our guests. So the feedback that I often hear from guests is there is something about talking to strangers, people that are not connected, that makes it that bit easier.
Why is that?
How do you tell someone you love that you don't want to live anymore? That's a hard conversation to have. I know I myself had 3 small children who I couldn't tell anyone. I didn't want to be around. So the conversation, please do, you know, pick up the phone and speak to somebody. We take people from all over the UK, and there is always someone there to listen to you. It's and that's what it is. It's we listen, we acknowledge. People don't feel heard and acknowledged. That's key. We will listen and acknowledge.
It's interesting there that Angela just mentioned. It's about talking, exploring, and telling someone Angela said it's easier to find someone who's a stranger to talk to rather than talk to your loved ones. कभी-कभी ऐसी दूसरे बंदे ना खुद दिल खोल के गाल कर सकते हैं फोन जारी या सामने देखे वैसे खुद परिवार ना गाल नहीं कर सकते तो मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि संगत में किसी गाल क्यों नहीं कर सकते सर की कारण है कि जो गाल नहीं कर सकते जो तुम्हें पता है कि आंसर की है सारे टेलीफोन नाम खुले गया तो मैंने दसो कि थोड़ी एक्सपीरियंस हुई थोड़ी कि ऐसी जो गाल हो रही है क्यों नहीं गाल कर सकते किसी ना क्यों ज़रूरी है कि दूसरे बार नहीं कर सकते अपने माँ प्यो भैन भरा और ना गाल क्यों नहीं कर सकते Good. Working in suicide, why did you, what's your goals and ambitions about raising this awareness?
Well, the reason why I began to raise awareness on the prevention of suicide was because I'd personally been impacted by it. I didn't want anyone else to go through what we went through. And most importantly, I wanted the person who may be suffering in silence to know it's okay not to be okay. Seeking help isn't a sign of weakness. In fact, it shows great strength and courage. By raising awareness, we also promote specialist charities that prevent suicide, so charities such as Papyrus and Maytree, the Sikh Helpline, Calm, Samaritan's Mind, the Hira Foundation, Jet Trust. All these charities are all there, and it's about making it known to other people that they're out there. Thirdly, I also wanted to equip people with some knowledge on how to have those conversations if they are ever approached by somebody who is who is having thoughts of suicide or is worried about anyone who is at the risk of suicide.
But why the national curriculum?
So I think mental health to me is just as important as physical health. So if we've got physical education on the national curriculum, then why can't we have mental health included on the national curriculum? I believe that if we build resilience in children from a young age, help them understand their feelings and emotions, equip them with tools and techniques to understand certain situations, deal with certain situations, then this is something that they can take with them throughout their whole life, and possibly prevent them having some kind of mental breakdown.
It's interesting how we talked about if you've got a physical ailment, you're fast to fix it. But once you've got a mind or something psychologically not there, we're quite shy to actually go from it. ऐसी गल पहले भी कर चुके हैं कि भाई जो बंदे नो कोई शरीर के तौर पर रोग है वो जो का इलाज कराएगा पर जो मन का रोग है वेले वेले बंदे ਉਹਦੇ ਇਲਾਜ ਕਰਾਏਗਾ. Angela, you talked earlier about volunteers and people who helped you out. Just give me some indication about how they do, what training you provide for those people who help out.
So our volunteers have to be 18 and over. They kind of come in and have an interview with one of us. And it's not rocket science. They don't need a degree. It's just warmth and empathy. That's what we look for. So after they've gone through the interview stage, they go on a 6-week training course.
Okay.
Where we do role play. We talk about suicide. We put them in groups. They talk amongst themselves, and then before they go kind of what we'd say live in the house, they do what we call 2 shadow shifts in the office, so they can kind of get a real feel. It's very different in training to being in the house.
Okay. Arti, coming on to, I know you've had quite a lot of families like Gertie's family and you've helped them out. Just want to, in what way do you guys support families of people who've committed suicide?
So we are Papyrus Prevention of Young Suicide, but we do often get a lot of people who contact us when unfortunately they have lost someone to suicide, and they want to do something. They're very motivated by the fact that they don't want any other person to feel that way ever again and feel that suicide is the only answer, and they also don't want any other family member to experience that. The Helpline is a support for that, where they can get some help and support. For some people, they might want help through the inquest. Sometimes there's a large media presence, and sometimes they want help with that. More locally, we know families who have come to us where they've got certain things that they feel that could have helped or they feel that could have made a difference in their young person's life. So they might want us to maybe go to their GP surgery and have a talk there, or they might want us to look at their local train station or something like that. Often they will come to us and they'll want to talk to us, and they'll want to maybe volunteer for us. They'll want to spend their time. So whether that's like leafleting and raising awareness of papyrus in all their organisations that they know of, maybe talking to family and friends, doing some fundraising, and more advanced, where they might want to come and actually deliver some of our training packages on our behalf in their own community. As Papyrus, we're a big voice, but there's not very many of us, so we really rely on this community of people to help spread the word, just like Gurj does. Gurj and her family members and her friends have done so much work in really promoting and raising awareness, so much more reach than we would have just done on our own. So we're very grateful.
And to pose the same question to you, in what ways have you supported people like Gurj and her family?
Which ways have we supported them? I mean, we speak
generically, not just Gurj, but
we do get parents, partners, whoever calling on behalf of the person that's suicidal, and it's so important that they have a voice as well. That we don't just say, oh, tell your son or your partner to call us. It's very much about acknowledging how hard it is for them. And we will signpost people on. Gurj mentioned SOBs. Anyone under 18 we signpost on to kind of Papyrus.
Okay. So there's a support network there going forward. Just to let you know, our telephone lines are open, so if you guys need to talk or give your opinions or give your thoughts or any practices you've had in the past, we'd like to hear from you. I'm going to open the lines up, and we've got a call coming through. So, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਜੀ। ਮੈਂ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਬੋਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਬਰਮਿੰਘਮ ਕੋਲੋਂ।
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ।
ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਜੀ ਮੈਂ ਕੰਗ੍ਰੈਚੁਲੇਟ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੰਗਤ ਟੀਵੀ ਨੂੰ, ਐਂਡ ਆਈ ਲਾਈਕ ਟੂ ਕੰਗ੍ਰੈਚੁਲੇਟ the three people there.
Thank you.
On this very, very important issue. Because a lot of our people, like we need to make them aware, we need to start talking about this.
Hanji.
Because we don't talk enough. Like the English media, they talk a lot. They have these call-in programs and stuff.
Hanji.
And we need to make people aware. A lot of people like today to channel or something. I like to make them aware that this issue.
Hanji.
To resolve it. ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਚ ਵੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਆਪਣੇ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਕਰ ਲਓ ਗੱਲ
ਸਿਆਣੇ ਸੁਣ ਰਹੇ ਆ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵੀ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਵੀ ਉਹ ਮੈਂਟਲ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਹੈ ਆ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਹੈ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਐਕਸਟੈਂਡ ਤੇ ਹੋਇਆ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੈਗਾ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਇਆ ਸਿਆਣਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਇਆ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਹੈਗਾ ਤੇ ਮਤਲਬ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੰਗ੍ਰੈਚੁਲੇਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਵੀ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਆਪਨੇ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ like ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਰਿਲੀਜੀਅਸ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਹੈ ਉੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਵੀ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਟੇਕ ਇੰਟਰਸਟ ਇਨ ਦਿਸ।
ਬਹਾਦਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਗਰਲ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਹੈਗੇ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਉਪਰਾਲਾ ਚੱਕਿਆ ਹੈਗਾ ਬਿਨਾਂ ਸੰਗਤ ਉਪਰਾਲਾ ਨਾ ਕੁਝ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ। ਪਰ ਮੇਰੇ ਕੋਲ ਇੱਕ ਸਵਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ?
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਇਹੀ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿ ਰਿਹਾ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਉੱਥੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਬਾਤਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਪੀਪਲ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਪੀਪਲ ਡਰਦੇ ਆ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਮੈਂਟਲ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਬਈ ਉਹ ਕਹਿਣਗੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਮਲ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਨਿਗਾਹ ਕਦੇ ਆਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਹੈ ਦੇ ਆਲਵੇਸ ਐਗਜ਼ਿਸਟਡ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਜੀ ਤੇ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਸੌਰੀ ਆਈ ਜਸਟ ਪੁੱਟ ਦ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਔਨ ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਸਟੋਰੀ ਬਾਰੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਤੇ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਲਿਆਓ ਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਹੈ ਜੇ ਲਿਆਓ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਿਆਂ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੀਪਲ ਹੈ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਨਸਿਸਟ ਕਰੋ ਬਈ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰੋ ਬਈ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਇੰਟਰਸਟ ਕਰੋ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਵੈਲਕਮ ਅਸੀਂ ਆ ਕੇ ਕੌਨਫੀਡੈਂਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰ ਸਕੀਏ ਜੀ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਜੀ।
ਪਰ ਜੋ ਗੁਰੂਕਾਰ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਇੱਕ ਥਾਂ ਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਡੇ ਗੁਰੂਕਾਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੰਦੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ? ਇਹ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿਉਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਜੋ ਬੰਦਾ ਜੋ ਬੰਦੇ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਸ ਮੈਂਟਲ ਹੈਲਥ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਂਦਾ?
ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਸਕਿਲਡ ਪੀਪਲ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂਗਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਕੋਈ ਸਕਿਲਡ ਪੀਪਲ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂਗੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਪੀਪਲ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਹਦੇ ਸੁਣ ਸਕਣ ਦੂਜੇ ਤਾਂ you know ਜੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਇੱਕ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਨਾ you know like ਮੇਰੇ experience ਨਾਲ ਮੈਂ you know like I've actually worked around the world you know in the streets and all sorts of stuff
ਚਲੋ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ
ਜਦੋਂ ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਤੋਂ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉੱਥੇ ਮੂਰੇ ਕੋਈ ਕਿਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਨਾ ਕ੍ਰਾਂਤੀ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਉਹਨੇ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਅਪਰੋਚ ਹੋਣਾ ਜਿਵੇਂ skilled people ਹੈ like you know these professional people we need to bring a professionalism into our ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਨਾ you know like ਆਪਾਂ professional level ਤੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕੀਏ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ you know like ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਆਜਮਾ ਵੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਸਪੈਸਿਫਿਕ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਉਹ ਦੂਜੇ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਸਮਝ ਹੀ ਨਾ ਆਵੇ ਵੀ ਕੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ ਵੀ you know like ਵੀ ਕੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਵੀ ਸਟੈਪਸ ਵੀ how to actually listen to people
ਚਲੋ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ
but you know like at a different level because I don't know but I'm not to
so let's ask Gurj here. She's done quite well. Gurj, the question posed here is why don't people go to the Gurdwara and help out? Bahadur Ji kindly said there's not skilled people there. What's your thoughts? And if you could talk in Punjabi as well, it'd be grateful. If not, don't worry.
Okay, so I think Bahadur Ji raises a number of good issues. Firstly, the stigma attached to mental health. So, like he said, you know, about being called Sadai, Gamala, it's all those kinds of things that sometimes prevent people from getting the help that they need. Gurdwara are working now towards helping people with mental health by having these raising awareness, having presentations quite similar to the ones that we've had. So I think you need to understand your problem first by getting professional help and then having faith in God that
Bahadur, one second, just to let you know, Sangat know that we've just put up a number of helplines for you. There's different numbers of helplines there for you. So if anyone does need to speak to them, there's numbers there for you on the screen right now. So Bahadur, sorry to interrupt you there.
No, sorry. No problem at all.
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਦੇਖਣਾ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ you know ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੁਆਰਾ ਜਾ ਤੇ ਸੰਗਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸੁਣ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਸੇਵਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਨਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
this is the real step this is breaking the mold isn't ਆਪਾਂ ਦੂਜਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੋ ਕਹਿ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੁਣ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਸੁਣ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਸਿਆਣੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਥੋੜਾ ਕੌਨਫੀਡੈਂਸ ਮਿਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਹਾਂ ਬਈ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਆ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਚ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਹੋ ਵੀ ਕਾਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਵੀ ਕਰੋ ਹੈ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਐਂਡ ਆਪਾਂ ਲਿਆਓ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗੁੱਡੀ ਬੈਠੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਹੇ ਵੀ you know like ਬਈ ਇਹ ਜੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਜਾਣ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਨਾਲੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿਣ ਵੀ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਬੈਠੇ ਆ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ somebody this is you're not on your own ਇਹ ਆਪਾਂ ਜੋ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਾਈਦਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਆਪਣਾ ਰੂਟੀਨ ਜਿਹਾ ਬਣ ਗਿਆ ਵੀ ਚਲੇ ਗਏ ਮੱਥਾ ਟੇਕਤਾ ਜੀ ਅਗਲਾ ਜੀ 2 ਮਿੰਟ ਬੈਠ ਕੇ ਲੰਗਰ ਛਕ ਲਿਆ ਆ ਗਏ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ lot of people ਜਿਹੜੇ ਯੰਗਸਟਰ ਹੈ you know ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪਲੇਸ ਹੈਗਾ ਜਾਣ ਲਈ ਪਰ ਇਸ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਆ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਹੁਣ ਆ ਸੁਣ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ I hope a lot of people don't switch over channel maybe Gurbani on the Mass this is Gurbani you know what you pray ਸੇਵਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਹਾਂਜੀ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਿਊਟੀਫੁਲ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਹੈ we need to investigate this more ਜੀ ਅਗਰ ਜੀ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨਾਲ you know like Nishkam we will talk a bit more on that
okay
they're very different
Bahadur ji we've got
ਹੁਣ ਇੱਥੇ ਮੁਕਾਉਣਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ listen to you more ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ Bahadur ji made a very valid point there about the community places of worship not being accepted. Going to open up to the panel, what's your thoughts about the community as a whole not accepting mental health and suicide as a place where they can openly talk and accept it? Why is it that there's this lack?
I think it's an interesting question. If I looked at the reaction after we did our presentations, when we went to the Bradford Gurdwara on Leeds Road, we noticed that there were, after the presentation, there were people floating around the stalls, Papyrus, Hira Foundation, Mind, but there wasn't that many people approaching the stands. And I think from what I understand, it's because they were too scared to approach the stand because of what other people might say, and that's a problem. They're stopping getting help because of what other people might say.
ਹੁਣੇ ਗਰਜ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬੜੀ ਦਿਲਚਸਪ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਨੇ ਪੂਰੇ ਬ੍ਰੈਡਫੋਰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਸਟੋਲ ਆਏ ਸੀਗੇ ਪਪਾਇਰਸ ਵੀ ਸੀਗਾ ਮਾਈਂਡ ਵੀ ਸੀਗੀ ਨੇਚਰ ਸੀ ਗਰਜ ਖੁਦ ਵੀ ਸੀਗੀ ਤੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਬੰਦੇ ਜੋ ਸੀ ਸੰਗਤਾਂ ਸੀਗੇ ਉਹ ਸਟੋਲ ਦੇ ਆਲੇ ਦੁਆਲੇ ਘੁੰਮ ਰਹੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਪਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਟੋਲ ਦੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤੀ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹ ਡਰਦੇ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਕਹੇ
The approach in Birmingham was different though.
Okay.
The approach in Birmingham after the presentation, there was about 300 people, 300 members of the congregation that gathered in the foyer where the stands were, and they approached the stands quite freely. Some people took away flyers that I had done, the Hira Foundation had done, because some people just don't feel comfortable approaching the stands and want to do it in their own confidence, confidentially in their own homes.
Could it be a stage where you can do a drop-in clinic or something of that in the nature where they can come in and sit in a room so it doesn't feel that way?
So the Hira Foundation in June put together a drop-in clinic following the presentation in February at the Guru Nanak Gurdwara. It was a huge success. A numerous amount of charities had been brought in. Presenters had also been brought in to talk about mental health, and that was a massive success.
We've got another call coming through. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Hanji ji.
I just have a question for the panel.
Yeah, sure.
For a child or a young child who is one of their parents has committed suicide, what kind of support do you give to that child?
Okay, so just repeat that question so we can just get... So if someone's a young child and a parent's passed away?
Yeah, a parent has committed suicide.
Okay. And
what kind of support can you give to that child as they're doing this?
Okay, so Angela, do you mind taking this question? Oh, sorry.
I'd say papyrus.
Papyrus?
Yeah, would be more knowledgeable.
I think what are your thoughts on a child who's had a parent who's committed suicide? What advice would you give?
What we know is if you have been bereaved by suicide, you are quite significantly at risk of taking your own life, and what we would say in that scenario is to really provide a lot of support. Dying by suicide and losing somebody by other natural causes, people don't really know how to talk to people who have lost someone by suicide. When you lose somebody by a natural cause, say a heart attack or something, many people are like, oh, I'm really sorry for your loss and I'm really sorry about what happened. And what we hear from families where they've lost somebody is that they find it really difficult, or they don't know what to say and they'll skirt around the issue. And, you know, we can't stress enough really about how it's really important we talk about it and we give an opportunity for that person to talk about it as well. There are a lot of support services available now for people who have lost somebody. So you've got Support After Suicide Partnership, which has got a long list of different support services available and helplines and things like that. And it's really about making sure that you really check in with that person. What we know is that there are signs to somebody who is feeling suicidal. In Papyrus, we call them invitations. And the reason why we have such a unique term on them is because it's a way somebody will invite you to ask them a suicide question and invite you to ask them if they're okay. And often they can get really overlooked. So, you know, asking the question is really brilliant because it sounds like there's a motivation to help there, and you really want to know what to do. And it's about really just being open and talking to them and letting them know that you are there and there are services out there. You need to have both, because someone may feel okay to talk to you, and that's brilliant, but there might be certain things that they can't talk to you about. And so having other services, confidential services such as helplines and other places they can go to, can actually really help as well.
Just coming on to that question, what kind of time frame should you give to a child?
That's actually a really difficult question to answer. I wonder, Angela, if you have a bit more to say about that.
I think the most important thing for a child that's been bereaved by suicide is that people, give that child space and kind of talk and give them a chance to express how they feel. There could be anger, there could be tears, there could be pain. And it's about holding that child. You can't take that pain from them, but encouraging them to talk about what they are feeling, how it's left them feeling. And there are organisations out there that specifically work with children. I think James's Place and Winston's Wish, places like that. The most important thing you can do is kind of talk about the person they've lost. A lot of children, I think, would worry that that the parent would be forgotten. So I would say talk openly about the parent that's gone.
Singh, hopefully that's answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Talking, ਅਸੀਂ ਹੁਣੇ ਗੱਲ ਸਵਾਲ ਆਇਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਜੋ ਬੱਚਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਜੋ ਮਾਪਿਓ ਖੁਦਕੁਸ਼ੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਜਾਂ ਆਤਮ ਹੱਤਿਆ ਕਰਦੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਜੋ ਗੈਸਟ ਸੀਗੇ ਹੁਣ ਕਹਿ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਜੋ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਥੋੜਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਦਿਓ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਉਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਦਿਓ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਹੋਏ ਕਿ ਕੋਈ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਦਿਨ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੇਗਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਟਾਈਮ ਲੱਗੇਗਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਖੁਦ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ ਕਦੇ ਕਦੇ ਗੁੱਸਾ ਵੀ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਰੋ ਵੀ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਕਦੇ ਕਦੇ ਕੁਝ ਵੀ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਪਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜੋ ਮਾਪਿਓ ਨੇ ਆਤਮਾ ਕੀਤੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਪਰ ਕੋਈ ਟਾਈਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕਰ ਸੇ ਪਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਦਿਲਾਸਾ ਦੇ ਦਿਆ ਕਰੋ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ Artie, just coming back to the sport and children, do you get quite a lot of cases where parents leave young vulnerable kids behind?
You mean when they've taken their life?
Yeah, taken their lives.
It's a yes or no, really. Every case is really unique about somebody who loses somebody to suicide. Sometimes, and different organisations are obviously have a role to play as well within that. But I think what we really need to focus on here is that, you know, when you lose someone to suicide, regardless of your role or who you are, anyone and everyone can be affected. You know, we talked earlier a lot about a community and how community is really important, and you could have a young person in that community who takes their own life, and so many people in that community are affected by that, those who are close, but those who maybe didn't know that young person very well and maybe didn't have much of a relationship with them, but you know, they still feel really saddened by that, and they can also be vulnerable and at risk as well. So, you know, the community approach is really important here. It's about everybody taking some level of responsibility and everybody realising that there is something everybody can do, whether it's actually sitting down and asking someone, how are you today and how's your day been, and how many times do we actually sit down with that person and have that conversation and actually listen. Half the time we're just running around and we're trying to have that conversation. So if it's in a school environment, you know, if it's in a university environment, you know, if it's in your own community, it's still really important, whether you think it affects them or not, it's still really important we talk about it. Because what you're saying to someone when you talk openly about suicide, you're saying to them, I'm okay to talk about this. I'm a safe person and I won't judge you, and I'm here to help. And that message is so powerful to somebody who is feeling suicidal. At that moment they might not be, but it could be later on they might be, or it could be they've got a friend who is, and they can share that with them, that you are a safe person to talk to about that.
काफ़ी औरतें काफ़ी चंगी लड़की थी कि जो बंदा कोई ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਜਗੇ ਆਤਮਾ ਕਰਨ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਬੰਦਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਜੋ ਆਪੇ ਖੁੱਲ ਕੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕੇ ਇੱਕ उन्होंने क्या है कि टर्म जो सेफ पर्सन होता है जो बंदा सुरक्षित हो जो तुझे गल बात करके अपना मन हल्का कर सकता है क्या तो कई तरह जी गल करने की कोशिश करते ਅਸੀਂ सुनते नहीं चंगे आप तो कभी कभी ऐसी सोचते कि ਅਸੀਂ दूसरे बंदे दसेंगे तो और कुछ होएगा नहीं पर रात उन्होंने क्या चंगी तौर पर क्या है कि बंदे जो गल कर देगा दूसरे ना उनका फिर मन भी हल्का हो जाता जरूरी नहीं है कि तुसी उसी दिन गल करेंगे तुसी सवाल पूछ लो 1-2 दिन बात गल कर सकते या कोई दोस्त हो मित्र हो जो उन्होंने गल हो जाए And coming back to suicide as a whole, talking quite openly about taking one's life, the process of it can be quite detrimental to an individual. What alternatives can people do if they're in that process or that thoughts about ending one's life?
The key thing is to talk. The key thing is to talk. You know, we don't, at Maytree, we don't wait for people to have made an attempt. If someone's just thinking about it, that's the time to act. So it's having, again, I can't stress enough, and I know the ladies feel the same, that talking, it doesn't fix it in that instant, but it gives you that space to kind of talk, to be honest.
Kurt, just coming to you, what advice would you give to someone for those who have lost a loved one due to suicide?
Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's relationship with the deceased is different. There's no right way or wrong way to grieve. it's life-changing. You can't imagine a life without that person in it. I had a lot of love and support from my family, but I also recognised that I needed professional help. I've learnt how to rebuild my life. Around the pain and the grief will always be part of you. You learn how to rebuild your life around that pain and grief, and there's times where your thoughts will take you back to the epicenter of that grief and pain, but because I had professional help, because I've learnt tools and techniques, I handle that a lot more constructively than I possibly would have had before. So my advice is, if you need help, get the help that you need, because it's not an easy process. There is no explanation, you can't make sense of it, so it's difficult.
Very well put there. I couldn't put it better myself. Sharing that from someone who's actually gone through the aftermath of suicide, and being in a position where you have to pick up the pieces, because a lot of the questions, as you mentioned, don't get answered. You don't know what was going on, how things are going on, and sometimes playing with the unknown can be quite difficult. And it's kudos to you for actually taking the ball by the helms and working with organisations such as Maytree and Papyrus and the Hero Foundation as well, working with them and actually taking this step forward. So big thank you for you. कभी-कभी जो ऐसी जो बंदा मौत चल जाता है, आत्महत्या या खुदकुशी, सानू पता ही चलता की हैगा ते ਹੁਣੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਗਰਜਨ ਦੱਸੇ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਵੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤਾਂ ਕਰਨ ਨਾਲ ਮਨ ਵੀ ਹਲਕਾ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ। ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਚੱਲਦਾ ਕੀ ਹੋਇਆ, ਕੀ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੋਇਆ, ਕੀ ਸੋਚ ਸੀਗੀ। ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਦੀ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਚੱਲਦਾ ਕਿ ਜੋ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਪੁਰਾਣੀ ਚੱਲ ਗਿਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਵਾਪਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਣਾ, ਪਰ ਜੋ ਰਹਿ ਗਿਆ ਨਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਦੇਖਣਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋ, ਵਿਚਾਰ ਕਰੋ। ਜੋ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਬੰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ, ਜੋ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜੇਸ਼ਨ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਜੋ ਬਣੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਰਾਬਤਾ ਕਰੋ ਤੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਦੇਖੋ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੈਗੀ। Come to the end of our show here. Aarti, final words. What advice would you give to someone who's watched the show and thinking, actually, I don't want to do this?
Okay.
What would you say?
If somebody's watching this show right now and they realise that they're having thoughts of suicide, or maybe they have been for a while, I would really encourage you to talk about it. Really talk about it. You might have somebody in your life right now that you feel you can trust and you can respect. You may not have spoken to them about this, but you know that they're a good person and they listen. Talk to them about it. But if you don't, come and talk to us at Helpline UK. The number is 0800 068 4141, and if you're experiencing thoughts of suicide, you can really call us or text or email. But there's another really element to that, and you know, for some of you watching, you might not have those thoughts, but you might actually be somebody who is worried about somebody, or this has brought something up for you where you think, oh, actually I had a conversation earlier with somebody, should I be worried about what was said? Then give us a call as well, again, and we can help and support you. It's so important that we talk openly about suicide. So many people believe that if we talk openly about suicide, we give that person the idea, and we don't want to put that in their head, and there's no research or evidence to prove that at all. In fact, we destigmatise suicide when we say suicide, because when we're saying to people we're okay to talk about it, and it's just important we remember that as a community, that to each other and towards each other, there's so much we can do to look after each other before it then maybe gets to a point where they do have to reach services like Maytree or even Helpline UK. If you've got somebody in your life you can speak to, I really encourage you to do that.
Angela, if you can, your thoughts on what Aarti just said there.
I second everything she said. Can I just take this opportunity to thank you all for having me here and giving me the space to talk about Maytree, but more so to Gurj and her family for the support that they've given, not only financially. She puts us out there. You know, there's so many people that don't know about Maytree, so we really are grateful for her support. If you are even thinking about it, please call one of the lines. You know, at Maytree it's confidential. Everything you say to us stays with us. We don't hound you, we don't put pressure on you. If it's not for you, then that's fine, there are other services. But if you are, the most important thing you can do is to talk, because as I said before, none of us are immune from ever having suicidal thoughts. It can happen to any one of us.
Gurj, what would you like to say?
I echo really what Aarti and Angela have said here today. if the individual who's suffering in silence feels they can't talk to a family or a friend, at least talk to a trusted person, a professional person. There's plenty of charities out there, such as Maitri and Papyrus, that you can speak to in complete confidentiality. You don't have to do this alone. You're not alone. All you need to do is just reach out for help and somebody will grab your hand.
Guys, just to reiterate a point I made at the beginning of the show, it's a very, very difficult subject, something that's quite, can rock anyone's life, can rock anyone's family life. And if there are people who have felt something they need to get talked to, talk about, talk on, the numbers we've put on the screen before earlier with helplines, most of them are free, all of them are confidential, and all of them are professional. I would urge anyone and everyone to ring in and speak to, and especially you've got Maitri and Papyrus as well, and pick up the phone, ring them and go from there. पहले बार शुरू करते सी गल करते सी कि भी आज तक जो प्रोग्राम है काफ़ी डूंगा है ਅਸੀਂ ਜੋ ਦੇ ਆਤਮਹੱਤਿਆ ਜਾਂ ਖੁਦਕੁਸ਼ੀ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਡੂੰਘੇ ਸੋਚ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਜੋ ਬੰਦਾ ਅੱਜ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਦੇਖ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਜਾਂ ਕੁਝ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਵੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੁਣੇ ਸਕਰੀਨ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਟੈਲੀਫੋਨ ਨਾਲ ਰੱਖੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਹੈਗੇ ਮੇਟਰੀ ਵੀ ਹੈ ਪਾਰਸ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੇ ਉਹ ਨੰਬਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਰਿੰਗ ਕਰੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰੋ ਡਰੋ ਨਾ ਡਰਨਾ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲਣਾ ਹੈਗਾ. So to say a big thank you to you guys, especially to Gert, starting with you. Without you, this show potentially wouldn't be happening today. So big thank you for you and getting everyone on the show and working with everything. And Angela, sharing your expertise and knowledge. Thank you very much. And Aarti, fantastic as normal from there. Gert, before we go, final words from you, just for those family members who there but not there. In a few snippets, what would you say to them as a farewell piece?
In terms of the people that have lost somebody to suicide, it's difficult. It's difficult to imagine a life without that person in it, your loved one in it. But you need to find the strength to continue somehow and rebuild your life, because I don't think they'd want you to suffer.
That's very touching and powerful words there. Just to let you guys know, Gurj and Angela and Aarti will be staying back. So if you do wish to speak to them after the show, they'll be staying back taking your calls there. Angela ਤੇ Aarti ਤੇ Gurj ਉਹ ਬਾਅਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਫੋਨ ਲਾਈਨ ਤੇ ਹੋਏਗੇ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਜੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਫੋਨ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਫੋਨ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਤੋਂ ਖਤਮ ਹੋਣ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਫੋਨ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ. I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who's watching at home. And a very, very big thank you for those people who have rang in and shared their experiences, the thoughts and the emotions. ਅਸੀਂ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਜੋ ਸਾਡੇ ਵਿਊਅਰਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਘਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੈਗੇ also ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਜੋ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਫੋਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਸਭ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕੀ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਕੀ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਹੈ. A big thank you to the panel for doing such fantastic, taking time out from your busy schedules and coming on today's show. Just want to say to you, next week we're going to be talking about addictions, and we can continue this go. We've got another 2 weeks to go for a 10-part series to end. We had the understanding there's 10 topics, 10 experts and 10 shows. We're in that 8th week of our shows. We've got 2 more sessions to go, or 2 more shows to go, and afterwards we see how it goes. It's up to Sangat to decide if this show continues or not, so please let us know your views and thoughts. Don't want to take any more of your own, but a big thank you to our panel here, and I'd like to see you for next week. I want to say Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.